Welcome to the DL Gaming Podcast, adding games both new and old to your backlog, one slightly inappropriate episode at a time. My name is Bobby, and I am going to talk about some dirty cheater pumpkin eaters, but joining me today is Taylor.
And Bobby may be the host this week, but I'm going to be taking control.
Ooh.
And Amanda.
Is that a saliter in your pocket, or are you just picking on my flaws?
All right, we'll find out what all that means.
Yeah.
But first, what's new? Well, first of all, this week we're going to be talking about Control, the Thaumaturge, and Fellowship. But let's first start out talking about what's new. What's new with gaming? Taylor, what's new with you?
So, slightly gaming related, I got a new iPhone just yesterday, the 17 Pro Max, which I hope you didn't just hear because I tried to silence my phone. And they advertise that this new iPhone comes with a 6-core GPU, which I've never seen that advertised in a phone before. I'm not much of a mobile gamer, but with how powerful the device is, I'm actually considering trying out some like premium mobile games, something that will actually push the hardware, because this is also the biggest phone screen I've ever had. So I think there might be games that are actually fun to play on it. I don't know. We'll see.
That's exciting.
But yeah, new phone. I got the orange color.
Nice.
Orange, bold. Wow.
Yeah. I got to get a
right.
clear case so that way you can actually see it's orange. But
Yeah. Now they did just announce Deep Rock Galactic Survivor on mobile. So there's a game you can play on it. Yeah.
Check that out.
That'll use all 6 cores, I bet.
Yeah.
All right.
True.
What about you, Amanda? What do you got going on?
Yeah, what's new to me is, I mean, truthfully, not a lot. However, what is going to be new and exciting, I think, is that on December 4th, Epic Game Store is going to be releasing 2 free games that are pretty awesome that I think a lot of us have either played or checked out ourselves. And this is going to be Jackbox Party Pack 4 and The Dark Side Detective. The Dark Side Detective is a great game. Jackbox Party Pack right before the holidays is awesome and a really smart choice. So if anybody is looking to get a free party game for the holidays, there you go. And also Dark Side Detective's great. So that's going to be free.
Jackbox, firing that up with the family on the TV. That sounds like actually a lot of fun once you get the mulled wine going. And
Absolutely.
Which pack are they on now? I think I recently saw 11 being released.
I think it's like 13.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Something
it's
like
pretty
that.
high up there, but I mean, so many of the Jackbox games are so great. We've played them so many times during the like game nights that we've done, and
Oh, they really got us through COVID.
they really did. So and I'm seeing that we're at Jackbox 11. That's the latest one. It seems to be from what I'm seeing, just to confirm that. But yeah, so pick them up. You'll have a week after December 4th to pick that up for free. This episode comes out on the 2nd, so you should be able, once you're listening to us, be able to go and wait 2 days and then pick it up. And so yeah, that's the new thing. What about you, Bobby? What's new for you?
Well, I read an interesting article this week about EA Javelin. This is Battlefield 6's kernel-level anti-cheat solution. And anti-cheat software, that's an interesting rabbit hole to go down. I'd recommend doing some Googling just on that topic in general. There's a lot of interesting stuff. But anyway, EA Javelin, this is what Battlefield 6 is using for their anti-cheat. And they're saying this thing is working incredibly well. Cheaters, that's a problem we've had with video games like since the beginning, right? It is always a problem, continues to be a problem. But maybe EA figured it out. So they're saying that 2.4 million cheat attempts were blocked since the launch of Battlefield 6, which is crazy. I mean, that's a lot of that's
How
a lot of
long
attempted
has it been?
cheats.
A month?
Yeah, and that can't be like per person, right? That's got to be like one person trying a bunch of times, or maybe one person tried 2.4 million times. I don't know. But they used some interesting terms in this article. MIR was one of them, match infection rate. That's how many cheaters are in, or how many games were affected by a cheater. And they're saying that was 2% opening week, which is pretty impressive. To compare this to something else, they said it was before they required secure boot, it was 63%. And then after they required it, it was 93%. Well, I'm sorry, 63% were free and 93% were free after that. So that's how many games did not have a cheater in them.
The match infection rate is talking about how many lobbies or matches have a cheater in them, not the percent of people who are cheaters.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, 2%. So if you join a game in Battlefield 6, there's a 2% chance that there's going to be a cheater in your game, which I guess is pretty good.
That is incredibly low.
Yeah.
I compare that to Counter-Strike or Call of Duty.
Yeah, and so this thing that they're using, I mentioned it was kernel level, and this gets a little technical, and I used other terms like secure boot, which is related to your TPM. Remember back in the day when we all switched to Windows 11 and it was like, you have to have a TPM, and everyone's like, what's that? And it was like this whole kerfuffle, but now like here we are years later, and it's paying off. So the TPM is like this little chip on your motherboard that stores like cryptographic information, and nothing can access it, right? Or like the operating system can't. So it's like super secure, but they leverage this for a lot of stuff. And one of those things is secure boot. And I was helping my friend's kid install Valorant maybe a year or two ago. And it was like, you can't install this, like big, bold error message because you don't have secure boot enabled. And I was like, man, I've never seen that before. I didn't know anti-cheat software was requiring that, but apparently it does. So Vanguard is what Riot Games uses on a lot of their games, like Valorant, and that's their anti-cheat, and I guess it always requires secure boot be turned on.
I think that's what they use on League of Legends as well.
Yeah, I assume that's what they use for all their games. But there's of course, we're all familiar with Easy Anti-Cheat or EAC. That's on like the majority of games, Fortnite, Apex Legends, Insurgency, like ton of games. The list goes on. And then there's another one that I hadn't heard of, but it's called BattlEye, and it's on a lot of games. PUBG, Escape from Tarkov, GTA 5, to name a few. But there's a lot of these out there. Some of them require secure boot, some of them don't. Some people are a little suspicious of like, that's a pretty deep level access that this thing needs.
Yeah, the kernel is the core of the operating system. Like it is as deep as you can go into your operating system.
Yeah, it's very low level. So yeah, I mean, that's a little weird, but that's, I guess, how you make these very effective. And one thing that that I forgot to research is, how does all this affect performance? Does it affect performance? I'd be interesting, because I know like the DRM, the digital rights management, like the anti-cracking stuff that they put on games, so you can't like rip them. Yeah, like de novo. I know that severely impacts performance. Maybe not severely, but it definitely impacts performance. So I wonder how anti-cheat does, if it does at all. But yeah, so that's good to know. So Battlefield 6, I mean, that must be nice, because I know like in other games, PUBG, Counter-Strike, it feels like so many games had cheaters and ruined the experience, but Battlefield 6, and it's not easy for a developer to implement this, like to require you to use like secure boot for this and develop their own anti-cheat solution. It was a lot of work, but I guess it's paid off. So good for them.
Yeah, it's always been a kind of a rat race between the cheater developers and the anti-cheat developers, and a constant struggle to see who comes out on top. And honestly,
and avoiding that VAC ban.
those stats from Javelin are super impressive. And I hope that they open it up beyond just EA and maybe start licensing it out to other games if it's so effective.
yeah, honestly, Escape from Tarkov and GTA 5 or the next GTA game
Yeah,
could take a note from that because I feel like
they
BattlEye
could
actually
really
is
use it.
really lacking.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's move on. And we're going to talk about what we played. So, Taylor, why don't you start us off?
Yeah, this week, well, it wasn't actually this week, but recently I played Control. Uh, I actually had Control Ultimate Edition, which includes the 2 DLCs that they released afterwards. And so Control isn't the newest game around. I think it came out. Oh, now I'm blanking on when it came out. But let's see, 2019. So it is one of the earlier games that came with like ray tracing, for instance. And the Ultimate Edition does a great job. It's super well optimized. Like, I don't have the best of machines. Uh, I only run a 3060 Ti, but I was able to run Control 1440p high settings with ray tracing enabled using DLSS, and it looked gorgeous.
What kind of graphics card do you have?
3060 Ti.
3060 Ti. Okay.
So only 8 GB VRAM. Not it's a mid-range card from a couple years ago now, but does the job. But anyway, getting into the actual story of Control, it takes place in somewhere called the Oldest House, and this is like in a giant office building in downtown New York City that people don't notice it's there. There's some kind of effect it has where people will walk past it and not think about the fact that it's there. So it's kind of hard to find. And the building itself is an ever-changing place that connects to different and distant spaces. And so, a doorway or a corridor that you used last week might end up leading to somewhere completely different this week. And they use these things called control points in order to stabilize the building for their purposes. So essentially, this oldest house was taken over by the FBC, or Federal Bureau of Control. And they are a federal organization that investigate paranormal events and objects, as well as like containing these things. So when a paranormal event happens, the FBC agents are the ones who are going to come in, respond to it, and then cover it up, and make sure the public is none the wiser. And you play as a seemingly normal person named Jessie, who has been looking for her brother her whole life. I don't know her exact age, but I'd put her like around 30. And when they were children, they were involved in some kind of event that the FBC investigated, and they abducted her brother. So she's been searching for him ever since. And right when you arrive at the oldest house and walk inside, it goes into lockdown, and it's like very creepy. There's no one there but a janitor who lets you in, and you make your way to the director's office. And right as you're walking to the door, you hear a gunshot. You open the door, and there's this like executive office, with the leather chair and the desk. And lying there on the floor is the former director of the FBC, having just shot himself in the head. Lying on the ground is this gun that he used. and you go over there and you pick up the gun, which immediately causes like this kind of psychic thing to happen. And you get connected with something called the board, which is some form of entity. And the gun accepts you as a wielder, which makes you the new director. So basically, anyone who wields this gun is the director of the FBC. So it was great opening sequence of kind of establishing the tone. Like it pulled me in immediately. And then getting to figure out, okay, so this is going to deal with the paranormal. It's going to deal with psychic powers, that kind of thing. And so once you've gotten the gun and you start to make your way through the halls of, looking for like anyone else, you come across these like infected people called the Hiss. The Hiss is like this infection that is an audio, or not audio, but like waveform infection. And you eventually come across like this secure vault room that some people wearing these devices that protects them from the Hiss are in. And that's when you finally start to get some answers. Like one of the people you find is a researcher who's able to give you some directions. But it's weird because they all immediately recognize you as the new director, even though, you've only been in the office for a literal hour at this point. But it's the gameplay, like gameplay wise, it's also a lot of fun. Using these like telekinetic powers to, like zip a office chair at an enemy and watching them just get ragdolled away is so satisfying. And like they did such a great job with all of the various like environmental assets. So like fire extinguishers, chairs, boxes, it's not limited to just, specific items. You can pick up almost anything. And as you level up your powers, you can pick up larger and larger objects to throw around. And they did it in such a way, too, that if you line it up just right, as you're pulling the object towards you to then hurl out, you can hit an enemy as it's getting pulled towards you and then hurl it at them and hit them twice with one use. So it rewards like good spatial thinking. So that's a lot of fun. And then I guess like the gun itself is also kind of cool. Like you don't pick up different weapons in this game. You only have the one gun, but it gets different forms. So you unlock a form that is like a shotgun form. There is one that is called Pierce. That's more like a sniper rifle. It zooms a little more. It's not like a scope, but gives you a little bit closer look and kind of one-shots things. There's a kind of machine gun one. So it covers all the bases of different weapon types you might want to play with. And then you get these things like mods to add on to your gun and your person as well. So like upgrade your shield. You can upgrade your gun to have a higher fire rate or do more damage, critical hit chance, etc. And you find these mods by like killing enemies. But I will say, like, so far I've been praising this game a lot. The mods, I think, are one of the weaker aspects. They're kind of boring. All of them are like plus 7% energy usage, or plus 6% rate of fire, or what,
Yeah, it's like
stuff like that.
flat static, or what do they call those? There's a name for that. I can't remember what it is, but it's like a stat modifier or something.
Yeah. And they don't change the way you approach the game. Like, they don't change your play style. It just makes you incrementally more powerful. So I never felt like I was like excited to get a new mod.
Those hardly ever do, because what happens is you get that stat modifier and you do 10% more damage, but then the enemies you're fighting have 10% more health. So
yeah,
it doesn't feel any different. You're like basically playing the same game, just with different numbers.
And the same issue persists in the character ability tree as well. So like, you have a fairly basic ability tree where you've got health, energy, you've got your telekinetic powers, and all of these can be upgraded with skill points you get from experience. And again, all of those ability upgrades are those flat percents increases that aren't doing much, aside from like the capstone ability. So for the throw ability, the capstone allows you to throw 3 objects instead of just one, which might make a difference, but it's all the way at the end of the tree and you have to invest fully into it. So I never even really got to play around with that. But enough kind of ragging on the game. I truly did really enjoy my time with it. And one of the interesting parts of the story is the fact that Jesse, your main character, is a bit of an unreliable narrator. And I always like that in a game, where you can't always trust what you're being told by the character, right? Because she has her own missing memories and her own issues to deal with, right? And you're viewing everything through her lens, not an objective third-party lens. And you also come to find out that Jesse isn't just Jesse. There's another entity residing within her called Polaris, that she met as a child. And it's another one of these like waveform vibrational life forms. And so Polaris is what protects her from getting infected by the hiss in the first place. And I think kind of enhances her powers, as well as kind of guiding her on her quest. So like it'll help highlight what objective to go for. But that unreliable narration plus like the spooky setting of the game, it's an office building, but also there's like a quarry in there, like a black stone quarry that has a night sky above it that you walk into. And when, like, before you cleanse a control point, like the room you're in might be all boxed up, and when you cleanse it, it returns back to normal. So this like this kind of spooky paranormal setting with the files that you find that have like redacted bits on them, talking about various events the FBC has, conducted over the years, including the one that happened to you and your brother, is really cool. And the unreliable narration really adds to that. And it goes as far as like faking you out. It goes as far as, and spoiler for Control but at the end of the game, there is a final fight sequence. You meet like the object that was housing Polaris. It dies, and you get infected by the hiss, and credits start to roll. So like end of the game, you lost basically right at the end. Like you did your best, but you lost. But as the credits are rolling, they start to get all distorted, and like weird characters start to pop up, and it starts to say like these lines that the Hiss people would say to each other. And it goes into a scene where you're now an office worker at the FBC, like just an office assistant gathering coffee mugs and delivering the mail. And this is you is as like what your mindscape is as you're possessed. And you basically have to work your way through that, doing these menial chores in this very ominous setting while you break out of the infection. Because it turns out that Polaris still is within you. It wasn't tied to the physical object, like it exists within you yourself. And so you're able to take control again and finally accept your spot as director. And then you go into one final battle where you close off the source of the hiss infection. It turned out there was like a portal that had been opened that needed to get closed. So once you close the portal, everything, all that's left is cleaning out the remaining hiss infected people. And it lets you still play the game after you beat the final boss. So you can go and finish up any side quests you missed and also do the DLC.
That's fascinating.
Yeah, I thought that was a great way of ending the game in terms of letting you continue playing. Like I personally did not do all the side quests. I think I put about 20 hours into getting through the main story, and
that's a long
mainly
game.
Yeah,
by today's standards, that's a very long game.
Mm-hmm.
And I took my time. I was reading every note that I found all the way through, listening to every audio log that I found, all of that, like trying to absorb as much of the story as I could. I did a fair amount of exploration, but I didn't do most of the side quests. I just did the ones that give you additional psychic powers, because the main story just was gripping me enough that I wanted to see what came next in the story instead of going and taking care of some chores, But I guess to kind of like wrap it up, what are your guys' kind of thoughts on what is a good length for a single player narrative experience like this, as well as this kind of this style of paranormal? Like when I mean this style, it's like the SPC Foundation or SPC Foundation style.
I personally, so I've played a little bit of Control. I think only about 4 hours or so of it, and really liked it. But I also like Max Payne was one of my favorite games growing up on Xbox. So like I'm not surprised that I enjoyed Control but didn't finish it. I would say that for me, I think that a good length for a single player narrative game, especially in this day and age, is like 10 hours or more total to do the whole thing. Anything above 10,
Like
I think, is solid.
10 to 15.
Yeah, 10 to 15 hours, I think, is a really good chunk. Like, I think back to some of the games that were kind of the most gripping for me, like Detroit Become Humans, one of them, and it took me about 12 hours, and I took my time, and it took me 12 hours to finish the game, and I thought that that was perfect. It was like just enough to be full, right?
Yeah,
So yeah, and
and
so I
not
think
like
that that's
drug
really good.
out. I hate
Absolutely.
it when they pad out one of these games, and like the Assassin's Creed games do this, where it's like 100-hour game or an 80-hour game. When like to me, for a single player experience, that's just way too long. What about you, Bobby?
I think there's a lot of factors that affect the game length. I mean, first of all, the genre. If it's like a first person shooter, then those tend to be a lot shorter because everybody's kind of like over that genre in a bit of a way. But if it's an RPG, people will spend more time with it. And it also depends on like just how the game plays. So you take a game like Rise, Son of Rome, that's got a really great graphics for its time and a really fun like combat system. But they know like that game was like really about the graphics and like they had a pretty fun combat system, but that's not going to hold the player's attention for too long. So I think the game was like 6 hours long, which is the perfect length for a game like that. But then you take another game where like the mechanics of the game are a little more involved and there's more things going on. You take a game like maybe Far Cry where there's lots of areas to explore, abilities to unlock, the gameplay is constantly evolving, then you can go a lot further with that. And you know, there's usually a main storyline and they give you like a flexible gray area there in the middle. Like you got your main storyline, and if you just stick to that, then you can get through it pretty quick. But if you're actually enjoying the game, then you can do side quests and you can do all of them, none of them, or anything in between. So the game can really be like as short or as long as you want it to be. So I think there's a lot of ways to reach all types of players.
Like as long as you're not requiring a grind to progress the main story.
Yeah.
Like some games will do that where, you know, the next mission in the main narrative is level locked, you know, so you have to go grind side missions in order to level up enough, that kind of thing.
Yeah, and it depends on how good the game is too. I mean, I've played very short games that felt like they took an eternity, and then I've played very long games and I've just enjoyed every second. I wasn't even watching the clock. So, you know, it really depends on the quality of the game too.
10,000%. Yeah.
Well, speaking of quality games,
Yeah.
Amanda, I hear that you've played a high quality game this week.
Absolutely. Yeah, I was gonna say also speaking of a very long single player narrative game. And so I played the Thaumaturge. I'm still playing the Thaumaturge. I'm still looking forward to playing more of it. I have about 21 hours logged into it, and about half of that's on PC and about half of that's on Steam Deck. I've been truthfully, genuinely bouncing back and forth and can say
Is
that
it seamless?
it's seamless. It's at so long as you remember, because I ran into this issue, so long as you remember to save on your Steam Deck and exit the game, not just put your Steam Deck in sleep, it's seamless. Because otherwise you end up with cloud syncing issues, obviously. Yeah, so you have to exit the game on Steam Deck in order for it to actually upload to the cloud. Then you can play it on the PC. But there's been already like 4 days last week where like I started by eating breakfast, playing it on the PC, and then was like, I want to lay down and play it. So then I lay down in my bed and just instantly switched to the Steam Deck and kept playing it.
Oh, that's
And
so cool.
it's flawless. It's seamless. It's easy. It's very intuitive, both when you're playing on PC and when you're playing in the bed. To me, it's the exact kind of game that I would want to be bouncing back and forth because it's an isometric CRPG. So, like, it's simple in a way. Like, I can eat and just literally play the whole game off of my mouse. Or if I'm actually sitting and wanting to feel comfortable, I can use WASD and my mouse to play. And with the Steam Deck, it's just now instead of WASD, you're clicking, it's the joysticks and you move in that way. And then you just hit A to interact with things. And so it makes sense, which is great. Also, what's cool about this game is it makes sense historically. This is known as being like a narrative historic isometric RPG. So it takes place in Warsaw, Poland in 1905, and you see all these very accurate reflections of the time being like Russification of Warsaw, Poland. You can see like in the interactions with people that certain people really don't like all of the influences of Russia coming in. There are other people that completely fully accept it. So they did such a good job in the details of creating this very immersive historical world. And you follow this, what's called a thaumaturge, or they call him a tempermancer, depending on who you talk to. If you talk to the fancy bougie people, the rich people, they call him the thaumaturge and an expert in thaumaturgy. But if you talk to the more poorer people that kind of look at this as like a witchcraft and a terrible thing, or like some sort of snake oil con man thing, they're calling it a tempermancer. So it's cool that they've already kind
And
of created this world.
what is a thaumaturge or a
Yeah,
tempermancer?
a thaumaturge, because yeah, like what is this weird named game, right? Like a thaumaturge is somebody who can use spirits and this kind of in between world to pick out flaws and emotions of people. So it's kind of like this metaphysical detective that also has a paranormal element to it, because there are these things called salutors, or types of demons that will latch onto people through a flaw. And you, as a thaumaturge, can pick up flaws by deducing this emotional imprint that is made on things. So, like, one part of the game that I thought was really cool that I honestly didn't even figure out until 18 hours into the game was all of these, not just side missions, they're more kind of like points of interest. And they're found by picking up like trash in a way, or like a little crumpled up note. But then when you pick it up as a thaumaturge, you're reading an emotional profile that the person left on that piece of trash. And so you're getting all this context about it, of like this crumpled note of a poem. You're picking up that there's heartbreak and this person really loved this person and they picked daisies from this exact garden, because you can pick up a hint of the daisies. So then you go to that garden to go find it, and you follow these little like rumor trails in a way to get
Like
ideas and
clues,
clues. Yeah, but they're all based off of an emotional imprint that somebody made, and you're picking
like a
up on that.
lingering trace.
Exactly. Yep. And there is, and that they do call it that, the trace, and they'll be like trace uncertain or trace familiar or trace known, and it'll tell you who it is. And so then you can figure out all these things. And super cool that they've added into some of the folklore, like the demons, the salutors that you interact with sometimes. They have a lot of influence from different folklore things. Like one of the things that I had to fight and get was a golem from like a Jewish folklore, as somebody had put a curse on the family using a golem. And like, so there's all these like the developers really put in, I think, a lot of time and passion and care into the little details of this to really make this a full fleshed out narrative game with a
And
really cool
using
concept.
like
Mhm.
cryptids like from around the world.
Sort of, like, there's a Jinn that you can get, that one's from, like, around the world for sure. There's, like, they had, there's a I think she's a Saliter that I'm trying to get now. Her name's, I think, Lady Morena. She looks very much like, La Llorona, like the crying woman, like, of a Mexican folklore.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
but similar, not exactly the same. Like, of course, everything's kind of
But
been twisted, but
inspired.
inspired, exactly. And so, that part is really cool too. I think that the immersion in this game, they've really done such an amazing job. Depending on what neighborhood you go to in Warsaw, you really get an entire full-fledged picture of what that neighborhood is. Like if you go to and this includes in the side quests. So if you go to the higher, bougier, like rich neighborhoods of Warsaw, Poland, a lot of the people and the things that you're picking up are like little flyers that are like, come see a telescope. Because again, like there's so many influences of industrialization in the time. So you can go follow this trail as a thaumaturge, picking up little clues that you're seeing and sensing to go find where this guy's actually has his telescope. And then there's like a little moment where you can read where you went inside and he lets you use the telescope. And then now you get to see the telescope. And there's like a hand-drawn moment, like a postcard that they create when you complete that. But then if you go to
What
the poorer neighborhoods, there's like hidden fighting rings and like underground opium use and like underground gambling rings. So it's like it's very reflective, I think, of the time and what's going
What
on.
time
And
period is it?
it's in 1905. So it's right
Okay.
during the rise of, like I said, Russification and industrialization. And there are a lot of strikes too, a lot of things like the form of
The labor
unions and
movements.
labor movements. And you participate in that. You get to choose whether you want to side with the Russian government that's starting to come in, or you can side with the strikers and the people trying to build a union. There's an entire political movement that you can join in. And you're doing all of this from the perspective of a thaumaturge whose name is Victor Shulsky. And his father dies, who was a really well-renowned, very rich, very successful thaumaturge in Warsaw, Poland. And you're trying to figure out like how he died and solve these things and kind of solve that as like one of the main quests. But then, like I said, it's so easy in a way to get distracted by all these cool little things going on and all these little snippet stories of all these like little NPCs in different neighborhoods. And I another thing that was really cool is like you interact with all these moments where then you have to go into combat, or anytime you want to like kind of tame very much like I mean I love Pokemon, so I kind of relate it to Pokemon, but you can kind of collect these salutars, these demons, and then you use them to fight. And
Oh.
so while you're doing that, anytime you want to claim a salutar, you have to fight their creatures, their minions. And the fighting and the combat is turn-based, and it's done really, really well. So, like, you as a thaumaturge, it's really important to kind of do things like inflict suffering, inflict emotional states onto people, and then damage them because you get all these amplifiers for fighting. So there's a lot of strategy in the combat, and the combat's really good as well. And it's very helpful, I think, too. I mean, part of it is I think I just selected the difficulty of just normal. I didn't do like a really difficulty, so I'm not really having a hard time with the combat. I'm way more focused in the story anyway, but the combat's fun. It's been really good. It's like, okay, I use because the salutars are based off of a wheel of 4 different concepts of like flaw in a way, or like emotional states. So there's like heart is one of them, and that one you can use any of those salutars to like manipulate people, pull on their heartstrings, things like that, damage them with like a heartbroken feeling so that way they're in a suffering state, then attack them. Some NPCs, some enemies are more susceptible to that. There's another one called Deed that is like you can use shame, and you can use kind of in a way like the sense of duty to do things. So like as if you're doing a
Mm.
deed, things like that. There's one that is called Word. So you can manipulate people into kind of suggestion and you know, manipulation through that sort of through words. And then the last one is mind. And so you can use things of like insecurities of intelligence, things like that, and those flaws to kind of lead on to use the mind. And so these salutars represent different parts of that. And as a thaumaturge, you can kind of control which salutar you want to use on which person based on what they're susceptible of.
So
And that's in,
it's like element system in another game,
yeah,
but reflected based on emotions and stuff in this game.
absolutely. Yeah. And it's really cool how they've done that because you use that system obviously in combat, which is really helpful. But additionally, too, when you want to move along certain aspects of the story, like there's one moment where there are from the secret Russian police, there are people following you to see what they're doing, and you can manipulate them into going back to their superior to demand a higher raise for following you around because they feel it's beneath them from their pride. And so you lean on that flaw to
Mm.
make them go away. So that way, then they become a problem for the person chasing you, which is cool. And so I really liked it. I think the only thing I have not enjoyed at this game, which I get why they did it, I feel like they really tried to write in a way that would not be so old-timey, so that way
Hmm.
people were more like accepting of it in this modern era. But it's created these like really weird moments because they've put so much detail into the immersion, and I feel like there's been so many moments of immersion breaking because of the dialogue. Because I will say, like, the voice acting team is top notch. This whole thing is voice acted, and They did a phenomenal job. Like it's great, but there's moments like one moment I was standing there as Victor Shulsky, like looking around, trying to create a conclusion of what I was seeing, what I was picking up emotionally around like my father's death, where he died. And all of a sudden somebody goes, "Hey, Shulsky," and you turn around and they smack you in the head and you pass out and they just go, "Chicken butt." And I'm like, what? What is that? And so there's been there's been moments like I think there's been like a guess who, and you're like who, and they're like your mom or something. Like there's been these like really
modern
little
jokes,
like these little modern jokes weaved in, and I'd like to believe I have no idea, but I'd like to believe it's the writer trolling some of the people when creating such a serious game, because so many of the stories, so many of the things are very serious, and the game has this level of kind of creepiness, of like this paranormal creepiness, since you're dealing with these saluters that look like demons. I mean, some of them are truly horrifying. Like the first demon that you find in a small little village, I think was called the Buklavac. I'm so bad with pronouncing anything Eastern European. Please don't come for me. I'm awful at it. But I think it's the Bolkovic or something. It's this like huge creature that reminds me of Alien with its head, but almost as if it was something out of whatever, Geiger or whatever, where it's just like it's just all flesh. Like it's all flesh and bones, and he's got like 6 arms and all these chains and claws. And like this creature, what he does when he attacks, it's wild. He will pull the person's neck, like he'll push the head down, and then he'll just rip a huge chunk out of their neck, and it's horrifying, but it's great. Like it's, you know what I mean? Like it is supposed to be kind of spooky with this, and it is a terrifying creature that really played off of like a possessive insecurity was the flaw that you were looking for, was like this possessiveness. And so I just think that they did such an amazing job. Weird ass modern jokes shoved in where maybe they shouldn't be aside. This whole game is just like fantastic. And so it kind of got me thinking though of what kind of things do we imprint in our daily lives, right? Like like you could say what material things, but like in ways of games, like if there was a thaumaturge to kind of follow you guys around and make a conclusion on who you are, like based on the Steam games that you play, what do you think, and the impression maybe you've made on them, like what do you think they would say? Like I'll go first. Like for me, I kind of feel that maybe a thaumaturge would make the conclusion that I really enjoy building community and communicating and building connections, since I play so many crafting survival games and make an imprint on trying to build communities inside of them and playing with a lot of other people with that, to create something that isn't so linear of a part of like a main story in a way. Like I love the little like role playing on the side and building these little groups to like do things in games, especially when I think of how much I've played Ark Survival Evolved and what I've done in that game, and even Ark Raiders with some of the role playing. Like I think that a thaumaturge would probably make a conclusion that I really like community and that I work to build community based on some of those games. So what games do you think a thaumaturge, and what conclusion do you think a thaumaturge would make on your Steam games?
I would be scared to see that. I don't know. Based on my Steam games alone, the ones that I play, I'd be like, wow, this guy really likes dwarves. It's kind of weird.
I mean, is he wrong?
Maybe there's a height insecurity for the thaumaturge to find.
It's true.
Or beard insecurity.
Yeah.
I don't know. For me, I've got a lot of RPG games in my library and RTS games. So I think that would speak to strategy. And I guess what emotion would represent that? I guess that'd fall under mind.
Yeah, you'd probably fall under mind.
And I don't know which flaw would maybe be there, like a mind flaw of like maybe it's like the need to prove oneself,
Oh yeah.
perhaps.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's kind of what I'm thinking.
Yeah. And I will say, like, in the Thaumaturge game, like, your goal is to try and seek out flaws so that way you can get salutars, but he's not always picking up on like people's flaws. He's found like some of the side quests are kind of beautiful in that like he's finding like positive things and really good things, not just finding
Oh,
flaws.
okay.
Usually the emotional things that he's picking up on, he can sometimes he concludes a flaw, but you're really only looking for flaws when it comes to trying to find a
For
salutar or a
enemies.
demon because they latch onto a flaw. But for
Got it.
him, he's just picking up like emotional states and emotional
So maybe
imprints.
instead of it being like the flaw aspect, it would be more like the feeling I get from playing these games.
Yeah,
I see.
it's cool. So yeah,
Hmm.
listeners,
That's a neat idea.
yeah, and I would love to hear from our listeners, like what, what they think if somebody were to look at their Steam games and how they play or what impressions or what things that they've done in the game. What would somebody
Yeah, what
say
are
upon that if they
your
were focusing on it? What are you?
thaumaturgical?
Yeah.
Somebody should make that app or website.
Yeah.
It
It's
just
gonna be
analyzes
the
your Steam
new
profile and gives you like a full psych breakdown.
Yeah.
it's gonna be the new Zodiac.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. But I like that. I like that you put that for you. It would be the mind because you're right. Out of the 4 elements that the thaumaturge works at, I think for mine it would be heart. Bobby, it sounds like for yours it'd be deed because you're doing the deed. You're
Mm.
getting in there mining the rocks.
Well,
You're the
dwarves are
dwarf.
all about deeds.
Yeah, exactly. They do the deed. And then, yeah, Taylor is the mind. So out of the 4, which is deed, word, uh, heart, and mind.
That would leave Christian with word.
Well, no, I think Christian would also be mind because he also does a
He's also a
ton of,
strategy
yeah, he
gamer
does
and
strategy and he
city
does a lot of,
management.
exactly, the city management I think would be a lot of his. Yeah. And I feel like you don't have to be all or none, right? Like I think with Bobby, he probably does a lot of word. I feel like your typing games, for sure make you way more about the
I don't
word,
know,
right?
maybe. Your word kind of implies story to me, and you know how I feel about that.
Uh,
So I don't know.
it's your favorite thing. Actually, that's the flaw for you.
What thaumaturgical reading would you assign to the game you played this week, Bobby?
You know what? In the interest of time, let's skip this game. Just because we're running short on time, but 2, I'm going to be playing this game for a while, so I'll definitely have more to talk about next week. But
Can you tease it to us
yeah,
at least?
so Fellowship, it's World of Warcraft, but just Mythic Dungeon rating. That's it, and it's great. Spoiler alert. So check it out. But yeah, I'll talk in
Okay.
depth on that next week. But okay, so let's move on. And we're going to talk about what we want to play. So Taylor, why don't you start us off with what you want to play?
Yeah, I want to play the Outerworlds 2. The latest Obsidian game just came out a couple weeks ago. It's a futuristic action RPG set in like a corporate sci-fi world. I have not played the Outer Worlds 1. What I've heard, though, is that the Outer Worlds 2 is an improvement on the first game in every possible way. And I loved Avowed. So I'm excited to see Obsidian's take on a sci-fi game instead of a fantasy game. And I've just straight up avoided any of the previews. No spoilers. I'm not reading reviews, nothing like that. So I'm going in with fresh eyes. But I'm really hoping that it has good reactivity to your choices. That was something Avowed did well, but I think could have done even better. And I really hope that you get at least 2 companions in your party, but hopefully more. one of Obsidian's big strengths for me is companion banter and the writing of the companions and their histories and getting to learn about them and like grow that relationship over the course of a game. Like one of my favorite companions of any game is Durance from Pillars of Eternity, another Obsidian game.
Cool.
But what about you, Bobby?
So I just wanted to hit you with a few quick announcements here for Deep Rock Galactic. So I know this, I haven't brought this game up in a while. Proud of myself. We've been anxiously awaiting season 6, not just because of the new season, but because they also said Deep Rock Galactic Rogue Core was coming out around the same time as season 6. And Rogue Core is the co-op roguelike version of DRG. So I think it's going to be huge. I think this game, like, I think it's going to be even more popular than Deep Rock Galactic personally. We'll see if that happens. But they had some announcements. So they had like a development update, 45-minute thing that they streamed. You can watch the whole thing, but like the notes on it are season 6 got pushed back to quarter 1. There's going to be a new biome called Ossuary Depths. It's got like this bone theme. And of course that comes with new enemies, mission type, and cosmetics. They basically didn't have the team to support the development of season 6 and Rogue Core. So they've enlisted another developer called Invisible Walls. I've never heard of them, but apparently they're local to where the DRG developers are, and they're helping them out with this. So now they think that they can get season 6 out by quarter 1, 2026, and Rogue Core early access out by quarter 2, 2026. So I'm very excited for that we've got like a tentative date at this point.
And 2 quarters in a row of DRG content.
Yeah, it's gonna be an exciting year next year for Deep Rock Galactic fans such as myself. They also announced that Deep Rock Galactic Survivor is now on mobile too. So if
hey, another game to try on my new iPhone.
Yeah, so you can check that on. But you know, I feel like we all got Steam Decks. Maybe we don't need it on mobile. I'm interested to see how it plays on mobile. I'm kind of curious to just see how well it adapts to that
the control scheme.
Yeah, because I've never really had a great experience on mobile games. I mean, some like puzzle games, yeah, fine, are games designed specifically for mobile, but like ports like that, I don't know if I've ever seen it done well. But then again, I don't play many of these.
I tried the Baldur's Gate 1 and 2 mobile ports, and it does not work. You need a mouse and a keyboard for those games.
Yeah. All right. So look forward to that next year. Amanda, what do you got? What do you want to play?
Yeah, I want to play this game called Vane. It's like a post-apocalyptic zombie sandbox kind of survival game. I'm hearing that it's kind of a mashup between DayZ and Project Zomboid. It seems to be a perfect storm for role-playing. It's kind of my role-playing buddies that are really into it. I hear it's super buggy, but that's actually part of what's making it fun and the charm and kind of hilarious. And I mean, if you look at some videos of it, you can really see this like hilarious sandbox of moments. I mean, like people made like a go-kart racing track and like are running over zombies with go-karts and riding ATVs and like taking like giving people haircuts and they turn around and shoot them, and like it just seems like you can kind of do whatever the hell you want in a zombie apocalypse, which sounds super fun. There's very positive ratings. This came out very recently, like at the end of October it came out, and so I just really hope that it's full of like a lot of really funny moments and kind of keeps going and isn't just like this short flash in the pan for Halloween, right?
It's got on Steam very positive reviews overall, with over 3,800 of them. And SteamDB has at 88.9 with 5,700 reviews. So that only having been out 1 month, that is exceptionally well reviewed.
Yeah. And I mean, it seems hilarious. So like that, it's good. It's got the graphics that remind me a lot of Phasmophobia. But it just seems to be like an endless amount of things that you can do in it, which I love that. So I think that would be really cool. Yeah. So I'm hoping I can play that. But, moving along.
All right, let's play the bumper first because that's how we move from segment to segment, and let's check in with our community. Taylor, you want to give a quick shout out?
Yeah, as with every week, we're going to shout out our executive producer, Truthbringer. Thank you, Truthbringer, for selecting that Patreon role. We appreciate you every week.
Awesome. All right. And Amanda, we've got some listener questions and corrections.
That's right. Yeah. To start with a correction from last episode, Christian got something wrong. What the heck? Get him out of here. That's why he's not on the episode.
Nick, too. Did you hear him last episode going after Nick?
Yeah.
I mean, I took part
that's
in
why
it
he's
too,
not on the episode today. Get him out of
He's
here.
in timeout.
So thank you, Max Ben Jim on Spotify, for correctly pointing out the mix-up of titles, which is it's not Attila, that was Barbarian Invasion when Christian was talking about Total War. So thank you. Always feel free to reach out to us for any kind of corrections or anything, and we'll shout them out with the next episode.
And this one came from Spotify. So just, you don't have, if you want to reach out to us, it doesn't have to be through our Discord. You can comment on any platform, and we always look.
That's right. So moving on to the questions that we've got, Cricket Soldier on Discord has asked, is there going to be a DLG Con International? It's been talked about before, but that was with Mexico in mind. So is Team Canada going to be a serious contender next year? I can say as somebody who plans it, that yes, it's going to be in Canada next year. We'll start the polling process probably in January, near maybe the end of January, but definitely in January between the provinces of British Columbia and the province of Alberta. So
Province.
Providence, yes.
No D, province.
Yeah, that's my test. Yep. And you see, so that's good. Yeah. So between British Columbia, probably around the Vancouver area, and Alberta around the Calgary, but that's where I kind of want people to vote on which one of those they would prefer. So it is going to look like it's going to be DLG Con in Canada next year. So prepare for that. Start getting your passports, start getting your things ready now. So moving along.
Passports take a couple of weeks. Don't wait last minute for a passport unless you want to pay for the rush fee, which is not cheap.
And don't do that. Start working on that now, unless you already have it. But moving on to one of our favorite Canadians in the Discord, Marconius, who's from British Columbia. He asked quite a few questions, and I think Taylor's probably going to be the most equipped to talk about these. But Marconius asked, how does Control compare to other Remedy games? Like, which ones are better? Which ones are worse?
So, great question, Warco. Unfortunately, I'm not well equipped to answer it. The only other Remedy games that I've played were Max Payne, and I played Alan Wake 1 on release and didn't finish it. So I would say I like Control better than Alan Wake 1, and I actually like it better than Max Payne as well. So there you go.
Yeah.
Okay.
I need to still try more of the Remedy games, is what I'm saying.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I'm in a similar boat. I mean, I was really into Max Payne when that came out and during that time. I think I beat the first Max Payne, and I want to say I played the second one that came out. I don't know. It was a long time ago, but I didn't play too much Control, but I can already tell that like so much of the kind of narration, the creative story behind both of those games are they're really great and top notch. He also asked if we've ever tried Quantum Break. Has anybody played that?
I have Quantum Break. I have not played it. It's on my list. It's on my backlog. But it looks really interesting. Like I picked up Quantum Break, I don't know, probably 3 or 4 years ago now when it was on sale. And I just haven't gotten around to sitting down to play it. But it's a cool concept of like live action storytelling within a game.
Yeah. What about you, Bobby? Have you played any of the Remedy games?
I have not. No, I don't recognize a single one of these. I am no help here.
I'm so sorry, Marconius. He brings up a lot of really interesting things around it, though, that I'll also say, because he had said that Quantum Break is an interesting game, that Remedy really experimented with live action augmenting the storytelling, that a lot of the game mechanics for Control actually came from Quantum Break, and that the actor that plays Littlefingers in the Game of Thrones is the bad guy. So that's cool and interesting. Although, isn't Littlefingers in Game of Thrones kind of the bad guy, too? I don't know.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah. But he said another interesting aspect of Remedy is that they're from Finland, and that Finland is one of the most fascinating countries in the world. It's a place where speeding tickets are based on your income, and like a millionaire once paid over 100,000 euros for going too fast, but it's also a land of forests and lakes, and with 75% of the country covered in trees and nearly like 190,000 lakes scattered across it. They love the saunas. There's like 3 million of them, including one in a Burger King. So that's
I've seen
crazy.
the Burger King one.
Do they call it the Whopper sauna? They should. But anyway. He said that they take full advantage of the midnight sun and when the sun doesn't set for weeks in the summer. So in the world's strongest passports, there's a national library culture that feels super futuristic and some really quirky traditions like wife carrying championships. So that's kind of neat. He says that narratively, Remedy games can feel a bit David Lynch, a bit Christopher Nolan, and that there's definitely some Kojima in there. So the creative force behind Remedy is Sam Lake, who he thinks is the best dressed dude in video games. And some interesting things about him is that his name isn't Sam Lake. He was born Sammy Harvey. Harvey means lake in Finnish, and that his face is literally Max Payne. It is. Look it up.
Yeah.
He is Max Payne. He won a BAFTA award for Alan Wake 2's writing, and he originally studied English literature, not game design. It's so fascinating to me to get the idea, like, this is me saying, not Warconius, but it's so fascinating to me to kind of get a little bit of a glimpse and an insight into the person behind the code and the person that was making so many of the things, the person behind the narration, behind the writing. It's so cool. These are real people that are making these things.
I think a literature major makes sense after playing Control, like seeing that influence for sure. Curious that he chose English literature, not Finnish.
But I think that's I mean, that's cool though, especially if you're going to be making games kind of in English and things like that as well too. Then I guess in a way it makes sense. But maybe I think the point of that is that he probably wasn't interested in making game design or video games when he was studying
wasn't his
English
initial
literature.
Goal.
Exactly. We don't know. Let's get an interview with him. Sam Lake, if you're listening,
we need to get Sam Lake on the podcast.
Absolutely. All right, Bobby, what are we plugging?
So we always plug Discord. That's where the action's happening, folks. That's where you can answer listener questions, find people to play games with, or just hang out and chat with us about whatever's going on. Everything's happening at Discord. You can get there by going to dlgaming.net. And as I play us out here, just want to remind everyone that joining us today was Amanda and Taylor, and I'm Bobby, of course. And tune in next week because it's going to be me, Taylor, and we've got a special guest that's going to be joining us. Ooh, who could it be? All right. And playing us out this week, Amanda, you want to let them know what it's going to be?
Yeah, it's going to be the super chill music from Dr. Mario. Goodbye.
It works on 2 levels. Chill, and like you got the chills because you're sick. That's why Dr. Mario's here.
That's true.
I love that.